So let's talk about a really tough, kind of painful paradox in our social services system. It's the situation where the very system that's designed to help mothers who are struggling with substance use can actually become their single biggest obstacle. A place where, even the best intentions can end up having some pretty devastating consequences.
And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the very heart of the problem, doesn't it? I mean, think about it. If you're a mother and you're struggling, the fear of losing your child is so overwhelming, so powerful, that it forces you into the shadows. It makes you hide right at the moment you need a lifeline the most. It's a paralyzing catch-22. You desperately need help, but you are absolutely terrified of what's going to happen if you dare to ask for it. Okay, so to really understand this paradox, we've got to start with the huge invisible barrier that's standing between these families and the support they need. And it's a wall that's been built brick by brick with stigma. Stigma isn't just someone having a bad opinion of you. It's way bigger than that. It's a really powerful social force. It's this whole set of damaging stereotypes that gets latched onto a person, and it fundamentally changes how they're seen and how they're treated by society, by institutions, and yeah, even by themselves. Researchers actually break this down into 4 different levels, and they're all connected. It starts at the individual level. That's the internalized shame and fear we were just talking about. Then it moves to the interpersonal level. That's the judgment you might feel from a doctor or a nurse or even your own family. From there, it builds to the institutional level, where the policies and the systems themselves are the ones creating the barriers. And all of that, it's reinforced at the population level by broad societal norms and discrimination. You can see how they all just feed into each other and create this incredibly powerful, damaging cycle. So this brings us right to that big institutional problem. You've got 2 different systems that are supposed to be helping, right? You have the substance use field, which is focused on treatment and recovery, and then you have the child welfare field, which is focused laser-like on child safety. But so often, they're operating in totally separate worlds, with totally different rule books, leaving families kind of trapped in the cracks between them. Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question. If the systems are disconnected and the families are afraid to even ask for help, how in the world do you build a bridge to connect them? How do you create a pathway to support that doesn't feel like a trap? Well, some systems are trying to answer that question by creating a very specific role, basically a human bridge. And in Florida, they call this person a family intervention specialist, or FIS for short. This whole initiative, run by organizations like LSF Health Systems, was designed to do pretty much one thing: be that critical link between the child welfare system and substance abuse treatment. The goal is really straightforward: engage and support families to improve outcomes for everybody involved. The program has 4 very clear official goals, and you can really see how they're trying to perform this balancing act between the 2 systems. I mean, yes, of course, number 1 is protecting children, but look at what's right alongside it: goals to treat substance abuse, to reunify families, and to support long-term recovery. It's a real attempt to hold both of those realities at the exact same time. Now, here's a really crucial point. The FIS is not the therapist. Their role is totally different. Think of them as a motivator, a coordinator, a systems navigator. They're the consultant who understands the language of both of these worlds, and they can translate between the child welfare worker and the treatment provider, all while being a constant support for the family. And one simple but honestly kind of brilliant solution to that institutional gap is all about logistics. The system literally puts the family intervention specialist in the same office as the child protective investigators. Now, this isn't just symbolic, it's super practical. It immediately breaks down those communication barriers and helps make sure that referrals happen quickly and smoothly. Okay, so all of this sounds pretty great in theory, right? You've got a dedicated bridge builder, they're co-located for efficiency. It sounds good. But what happens when you zoom in from that big picture system level down to the messy human level? What happens when the neat, clean goals of a program run smack into the complicated and often dangerous reality of a person's life? This is where we get into the really deep human side of this work. We're talking about the daily ethical tensions that these providers have to navigate. It's where the theory on the page meets the reality on the street. So to really get inside their mindset, you have to understand a philosophy called harm reduction. Now, this isn't about forcing someone to stop using right away. It's a much more pragmatic approach that basically says, okay, this behavior is happening. How can we make it safer? How can we reduce the harm?
right here, right now, while we work towards those bigger goals. It's all about meeting people exactly where they are, no judgment. But as you can imagine, this philosophy creates a huge internal conflict for providers. I mean, their entire ethical code is built around the idea of doing good. But what does good even mean when a client's choices that you're taught to respect, are still actively harmful? Researchers have a name for this: questioning beneficence. And for providers on the ground, it's a constant, nagging question they have to live with every day. And get this deep philosophical wrestling match, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening alongside intense, nonstop procedural pressure. The FIS manual, for instance, requires them to try and make contact with a new family within just 3 working days of getting a referral. So you're wrestling with these huge ethical questions while a clock is literally ticking on your paperwork. Just listen to this quote from a provider. It perfectly captures that feeling of holding the tension. This person knows their client is in a dangerous situation, but they also have this incredible humility to know that they don't have all the answers, and that what looks dangerous from an outsider's perspective might actually be a survival strategy. That phrase, hold my breath, it's about respecting someone's autonomy while fighting every urge you have to just go in and fix everything. So you see, the real takeaway here isn't some simple, easy answer. It's about learning to hold the full complexity of this entire issue, just like that provider who's trying to just hold their breath. So let's just pull this all together. On the macro level, the really big picture, we have the systemic barrier of stigma, which creates fear and these disconnected systems. Then, in the middle, at the program level, we have a potential solution, like the family intervention specialist, who's designed to be that bridge. But on the micro level, the day-to-day lived experience for that specialist is the human reality of just sitting with tension, of navigating impossible choices day in and day out, often with no clear answers. And this leaves us with one final, and I think really challenging thought. Our systems, they love clear metrics, right? Cases closed, goals met, boxes checked. But in a field like this, how do you actually measure success? What's the metric for a provider who successfully holds their breath and builds trust with the family, even if that family isn't fixed yet? It makes you wonder, maybe the most important work of all can't actually be measured, only witnessed.